Hi, my name's Rob Schulz, founder and owner of Schultz Wealth, and my unexpected hobby is carving decoys.
Welcome to Unexpected Hobbies of Financial Advisors, the podcast where we interview fellow financial advisors about their pursuits and pastimes beyond their professional persona, some of which may be surprising to their colleagues and clients. We're interested in what makes them tick and how their unexpected hobbies might or might not relate to their everyday lives. Here's our discussion with this week's guest. Welcome to the Unexpected Hobbies of Financial Advisors podcast. I'm Brian Wright with Fiduciary CFO alongside my co-host and fellow financial advisor, Joshua Walker.
It's great to be here today, Brian. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. Joining us today is Rob Schulz, and we are very excited to talk to him. I've never met anyone with this hobby. I know barely enough to be dangerous about about just the use of them anyway. So the fact that someone makes them and carves them this is going to be interesting. So we're excited to have Rob on. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about my hobby that kind of keeps me sane in this crazy financial world that we get to work in every day. So great to be here.
All right, perfect. Well, so I guess tell everyone what Carving Decoys is for those who don't know what it is, and kind of give us a little background of how you got into it and all that.
Yeah, sure, Brian. So, 150 years ago, if you wanted to hunt ducks, then you had to carve your own decoys because, there wasn't a way to go buy one at Academy or whatever. You're right. There aren't a lot of folks that do it these days because it's completely not necessary. You can spend money and buy something that looks extremely lifelike to put out on the pond when you want to go out and hunt. But I've hunted ducks my whole life. My dad was a big duck hunter, so it's kind of a legacy thing. And since I come at it from a legacy direction, I always wanted to carve decoys and kind of get into. I also built a boat, and do things like that they may have done originally, when like 150 years ago. So that's how I got into it. Was just kind of the interest in duck hunting and wanting to, work with my hands and do something different.
When my father and I do outdoors stuff, we do fishing because we come from a family of fishermen. So Brian said he knew enough to be dangerous. I know nothing. So I guess I'm safe. What is the purpose in the process of hunting ducks? What does the decoy do? What's it for?
Well, I like to call duck hunting like the hardest easy hunting there is, because there's just a lot involved with it. That's what makes it kind of fun for me is, for a duck hunt to go correctly, there's just a lot of variables, right? There's obviously the weather, the wind, temperature, your boat needs to start. You need to be able to find where you're going to hunt in the dark. It needs to be the right setup. Your decoy spread, as we call it, when we put decoys out, needs to be right to where it looks lifelike and attractive to the ducks. You got to be able to call them in, and then finally, you try to shoot one, right? So it's so involved that I would say that's what makes duck hunting what it is just the really hard work. And I would say that I've never had a perfect duck hunt, where everything went just perfectly, but you're always kind of searching for it. And so yeah, that's kind of what duck hunting is about. It's, we're considered strange people because, when we show up for, Christmas parties and things like that during the winter, we're kind of bleary-eyed and red-eyed because we've been up in the marsh in the morning, and people don't really understand that. But it's kind of what we do.
You said it was the hardest easy hunt, and I didn't hear anything about that sounded easy. Where's the easy part?
Well, the easy part is if everything goes right and the ducks come in, it's a pretty easy shot because, they commit, they set their wings and they come in, and that part is the most exhilarating part, because your decoy spread has worked right, your dog didn't break, you were able to call and not screw that up, and they are completely fooled. And that's the easy part. Is if you get all the other stuff right, then they come in, and it's not a difficult shot.
And you said you're in a boat, not on the shore?
Well, you usually take a boat if you're freelancing or something like that. You usually take a boat to where you're going to be, because obviously you're on the water somewhere. Normally, I don't hunt out of a boat. Sometimes I do. I have a layout boat that I built that I'll hunt out of from time to time. Not as much anymore since I've gotten older. But yeah, you take a boat somewhere, and then you're wading in the water. So you have waders on, and you're standing in the cold water.
Oh,
It's pretty crazy.
and there's a season to this, right? It's late fall, early winter?
It's we'll start here. I think it's right around when we'll know when we have a new president. First weekend in November is when it starts down here. That's why, I'll show you in a little bit, but I have a half a dozen decoys that I'm trying to get painted here in the next month or so, because I want to add them to my spread.
And when the ducks are coming in, they're going strictly by sight. There's no scent, and you're providing the sound through other mechanisms.
Yeah, it's sight and sound, and more sight than sound. So when they come all the way down from Canada, by the time they get to North Texas, they've heard a duck call, and sometimes that part will screw it up. So you're really looking to take them out with your decoy spread.
So all the yahoos in Minnesota are trading them to avoid you.
Yes,
Oh.
correct. Yeah, they're looking down and they're saying, "Yeah, I'm not doing that again." Right?
I saw what happened to my buddy, and that's not going to
Yeah,
happen to me.
exactly. Yeah, nope, not falling for it this time.
So do you have one bite of the apple? Do you get this all set up in the morning, and then ducks come in, and then you fire when ready, and you either get one or you don't get one? And is your day then over, and you either it's you got it or you didn't, or can you do things settle down and you wait a little longer, and then you have kind of a second chance at a new group or the same group?
Well, you can go out there and completely whiff, right? Never see a duck in range. But usually you'll get waves. If it's a good hunt, then you'll get waves of ducks coming in. It'll be real exciting and fun. And you don't get to really shoot that many. Normally about 4 to 6 is your limit per person. So yeah.
And when we go fishing, we know a fish is a good fish because it's big. Is there one thing that makes a duck different from another duck, so you can say, "Oh yeah, wow, that's a good one"?
Well, actually, it's similar to fishing. Is that there are certain ducks that you can only get one or none of, and others that you can shoot more of. So another part of the skill is knowing how to identify the ducks on the wing, so that you're able to say, "Yep, I can shoot that," or "No, I already have a pintail and I can't shoot it." You need to know the difference between a drake and a hen. All those things are going through your head at the same time as you're trying to determine, what to do next. So yeah, there's a pecking order of ducks. Canvasbacks and pintails are highly prized by most duck hunters. You generally get either one or none of those in a season, and then from there, the mallard. I have a mallard here. I think. Mallard hen, that's a mallard. They're a large duck. There's a drake back here too. They're highly prized. There are a bunch of them. You can usually shoot a few of them in a year. Let me get my.
I'm accustomed to seeing more color on a mallard. That's just the drake of the species. Then
this is the drake, so this has more color to it. As you can see, the green head. Everybody kind of recognizes what a mallard drake looks like, but yeah, the hen in the duck world, the hen is drab, so the hen doesn't have a lot of color to them. That's the way it kind of works. And then from there, it kind of goes. We see a lot of gadwalls and widgeons and teal and blue-winged teal and green-winged teal, and then there are the divers, which are probably down at the bottom because they just don't eat good. And they're just kind of different. Those are your bluebills and ring necks and things like that. So there's a whole array of different species of ducks that you come in contact with when you duck hunt, which is another really cool part of it, because you're out in nature, able to see all this, and it's exciting. When you see a duck that you rarely see. It's somewhat rare.
And how old were you when you started learning one duck from another duck and then started going out with your dad? Is this something that was 2 years old in the nursery? This is one kind and this is another kind?
Almost. I can remember going, my dad, just like, you guys know, the rule is that you can, as a dad, you can pretty much go and do whatever you want as long as you take a kid with you. So, that's how my dad operated. And so, I was out freezing to death in duck blinds, almost before I could remember.
And siblings as well? Or were you the designated, if you're going to take somebody, take Rob? Liz?
Yeah. Just my sister does not duck hunt. Oh. She does shoot, but she doesn't duck hunt. So no, it was just me.
And the carving, is that something that you learned from your father as well, or did you come to that as a grown hunter?
Well, my dad has shop and was a woodworker, as a wood butcher is what I like to call it. He would build duck blinds and things like that. Built some cool stuff. And he always wanted to carve some ducks, because he had a lot of the books that I still use as reference. But he died young. He died when he was 49. And never really got the opportunity to continue into some things like that we have the opportunity to do in our spare time.
Sure. Well, sorry to hear that. When you say carve, then is that carving by hand? I see you got a whole array of tools in the workshop here. So what's the process?
Yeah. Well, so it's just like duck hunting. It has like a multitude of different pieces to it, or stages that all require different skills. Let's see if I can do this. I'll take this off.
It's like Michelangelo, right? You find the block and the duck comes out. Chip away everything that's not duck. Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is a piece of wood that I get. This is cottonwood. So I get this cut. I get it for free because nobody else wants it for anything, but it works good for ducks. So that's, where it starts. And then, this is my, real machine. That's my most expensive machine. That's a bandsaw. And so it starts kind of on the bandsaw with some patterns. Get that back. And the patterns are, I have duck head patterns that I've developed over the years, and from the, masters and so forth, for both the body and the head. See, you got to cut it out of a piece of wood like that on the bandsaw, and then you shape the body, and you do that with, mainly with like a rasp, something like that. Where's my rasp?
Sounds like a rasp.
Here's the circular rasp. You sit there, you bitch it in, and you just start going at it. And then also with a draw knife, and with this little guy right here. Different carving tools that you push and pull and whatever. You're just trying to get the wood off of there to get some semblance of a shape for the body. And once you're finished with that, then you carve the head, which is probably the part that takes the most skill. They say that if you can carve the head, you're good. If you can't carve the head, you probably need to go find another hobby.
Okay.
Fortunately, I can carve a head, so I learned all the rest of the stuff. You carve the head with more just like a whittling knife, just like I have a series of them, but, just a little knife like this. You just hold it and just carve and get that thing down to what you're looking for. After that, we hollow out. So these have a hollow body. So as you can see, I hollow them out on the drill press over here to make them lighter, and then put this bottom board on.
He's got a keel.
It's got a keel. I do keels. And then you have to attach the head, sand on it a whole bunch more, and then you paint it. So.
And is the whittling and carving something you do in the workshop, or is that on the couch after dinner watching the Yankee workshop?
Some people do. Some people sit on the couch. I put music on. I just sit in here and do it because it makes a mess.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just do it in here.
And we had earlier episode number 8, we had Andy Panko on, and he told us just how deep into the world of crazy tools somebody can get lost. Are you using heirloom tools? Are you a tool junkie, always looking for the next an amazing rasp? Because it seems like you'd probably go through them quite a bit.
Once you have one, it's usually a lifetime tool. I'm probably in between somewhere. I'm not a complete tool junkie, but I also appreciate a good tool. And it can be the weirdest thing. Like this morning, I was working, so I'm doing the feather painting on this guy right now. So I've got this half dozen. You can see like the little marks on the cheeks. They'll eventually look, like this guy. These are widgeons. Look like all the feather markings here. And I'm really excited about my new paintbrush. So it's something like that. I mean, I was like, man, this new paintbrush is awesome because it loads well and, makes some really fine details. It's the weirdest tools that you find that make your life easier. It's not, like the bandsaw obviously is a huge purchase. That's a $2,000 bandsaw. The rest of my tools, are not nearly that expensive.
Yeah, my wife does painting on canvas, and she says the same thing about paintbrushes. She'll use one and use one and use one, then get a new one, and oh wow, this is so amazing, this is great. Well, why didn't you buy one 4 months ago, babe? And
yeah, or the worst is you'll spend good money on a paintbrush and hate it.
Ooh.
And it's like, oh, that's the worst, and you don't know till you use it.
Is there a water coat of something that you're over it, or
not really? No, I mean, you need some integrity around here, obviously, where you put the bottom board on, which I use epoxy, and I mix it with sawdust and stick it on there, and it works pretty good. Other than that, I mean, it's wood. It's, it's fine. They do get beat up, which this is the kind of the weird part is I actually hunt with my decoys. So this one's gotten pretty beat up. Got one over here that has a lot of, where is he? He's lost a lot of paint.
how do they accumulate wear and tear?
I've lost a lot of paint, and I like it. I think they look cool once they start getting weathered and stuff. And then normally what I'll do is I'll give them away to the clients, like as a retirement gift or to somebody. And, usually they're kind of like, wow, this is really weird, but thank you.
it's memorable?
Yeah.
So when you get it into your head, I'm going to start a new one. This is my next project. What's the time frame that it takes to go from conception to in the water?
Oh, it can take all year to do because, I'm still working. So, it's in my spare time.
Sure.
If you have a wood shop, I think it's kind of like, owning a truck. People go, oh, you have a wood shop, you have equipment and stuff. I need you to make this or that or whatever. So, my family, I have another project sitting right here that I need to get done for a grandson, so you're just trying to fit it in as you can. So it can take a good long while when something's a hobby like that, or you can get into the flow and get it done real quick. I'm in the flow on these right now, and I hope to get them painted within the next couple of weeks.
And do you feel the deadline of the season's coming? First weekend in November is right around the corner. I need to crack this out.
A little bit. I'd say, it's a self-imposed deadline. It's still a hobby, right?
Right.
I mean, I have plenty of decoys. I'll be okay if they're not ready, but it would be cool if they were.
Yeah. And do you have other people that you go hunting with that are also into decoy manufacture, or do they just go on Amazon or whatever?
I would say that my primary duck hunting buddy over the last 30 years or so, he's into it. I'm into it. We're the only two guys in North Texas that I know of that do it. But a lot of folks on the East Coast and, in other parts of the country are really into carving decoys. That's where around the Chesapeake Bay, for instance, there's a lot of culture around decoy carving.
And has it developed into an art form of its own, or are they strictly functional and gifts?
That's a great question. I would say both. I carve what we call, hunting decoys that, are intended to be used for hunting. They're in the tradition to a certain extent of, how they would have carved them 150 years ago when they had a purpose, right? And and that's what I love is sitting there trying to, okay, we're going to try to make this look like a duck, but it's not really, it's art, right? You're not trying to make it completely lifelike. You're trying to use some nuances to it, some efficiencies that the original carvers would use. But then there are a number of people that are very, very much into, lifelike carvings of birds, which is a whole nother arena.
Sure. And is there, when Brian goes from city to city, he can find the local pinball arcade, but he can also find a pinball museum. Are there duck decoy museums in the Maryland area or anywhere?
There's some different museums in different parts of the country. And honestly, I haven't spent a lot of time exploring those yet. I would like to. I have not made that trip, up to the Chesapeake Bay yet, but I hope to sometime.
And you mentioned having kids and grandkids. Is this something that you've been able to perpetuate into further generations, or did they not catch the bug?
Not yet. I have 4 kids. None of them really, really carve a lot. My son is into working with his hands to a certain respect, but kind of more in the trades. And so no, not at this time.
Okay.
Now my granddaughter, who's 2, will be 2 tomorrow. She and I built a birdhouse the other week. So there's hope. She seemed to enjoy it. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess you got to get to a certain age before you put a knife in a child's hands and say, "Hey, make some art."
No knife. She had a hammer. She was doing pretty good with it. She liked that part.
Well, I want to know, is there a certain number of decoys that are ideal, both in a collection for you as you're making them, or is this like you're building these? Like, do you replace them as you get them done, or is it just like, nope, we're adding one more to the clan that's going out there on the water?
Yeah, Brian, that's a good question. The size of your spread is very debatable. If you're on smaller water, you want to use fewer decoys. If you're on big water, like in Reelfoot Lake in Tennessee and some famous places like that, they'll put out hundreds of decoys to try to pull the birds down. It just kind of depends on the environment that day. They go in dozens. So, generally you're talking about a dozen decoys is what you're trying to get to. But the old timers, used to be somewhat superstitious and always hunt with an odd number of decoys. Sometimes I actually do that. I think they look better, especially if it's a small spread or, different little spots, like 2 pieces with a tunnel in the middle. You'll try to put out an uneven number so they just kind of look more natural.
Wait, a tunnel in the middle. What's that about?
Well, just kind of like a little spot for your prey to land.
Oh, the target zone.
They won't, puddle ducks like mallards or widgeons or things like that. They won't fly over the backs of other ducks because puddle ducks, when they get up off the water, they pop straight up.
Oh,
and so they've learned that as well. So when they come in, you can usually kind of guide them in, hopefully based upon the wind, because they're going to come into the wind, and they're going to come in a way that you hope they would, not over the backs of your decoys and drop right into the pocket where you want them.
Oh, okay.
So when you were talking about the damage that some of these decoys get, is that just from rolling around in the back of the truck, or are these catching some bird shot? I mean, are you shooting low to the water where it's catching some pellets?
Hopefully my hunting buddies don't shoot my decoys. That would be bad. I don't think I have any that have taken on some bird shot. But they just get beat up, just putting them out, taking them. Yeah. All that, it's part of it. They get mud all over them. This one has mud all over it. I think they look awesome when they start getting dirty and scratched up. That's when they start looking really good, have a nice patina on them.
So do you have like their own
display area in your garage, or are they just in a box in the back of you just load it in the back of the truck and take out with you?
Yeah, it's funny. I get done with them and they go in the decoy bag. Um, I've displayed them from time to time, but probably don't completely fit. I'm told, the exact, design or interior design
Get
requirements
those
of my
things
house.
out of here.
Yeah, yeah. So not as much. There's a canvas back that sits in our house and a couple of really old, cool looking decoys, but none of my decoys are displayed in the house, which is kind of weird. Um, they all work, and then every once in a while, like I said, I'll give one away.
And you've done your hunts. You've got the ducks that you're able to get. Day is done.
Mhm.
How do you get the decoys back? The dog's good for that too, or you got to reel them back in, or go out and fetch them.
I had a dog once that would retrieve my decoys for me. Problem was sometimes he'd do it when I didn't want him to.
Oh,
Uh, but no, either when they have weights on them. Some of them had them.
but
They have these weights on them right here that I also make. I've led. That's safe.
what?
And yes,
It's like a weight for
it's a lead
fishing.
weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the key is generally are working in water that's about waist deep or less. I always make it a point to make sure that this string is no longer than the depth of my waders. So you wade out there in the mud and you pick them up.
Right.
General.
And how much chop can they take before they drift too far away, or they start to topple, or does that interfere with the hunt itself if you got too much movement on the water?
No, this weight is probably too big. I mean, I've never, as long as the string doesn't come disattached or something like that, no, they'll be fine. And then you design them to where they'll they'll self-right themselves if you did it right, because they have generally I put a weight on the bottom and I balance them out where they sit level, and if they flip over, they're supposed to flip back.
Right.
Some of mine do that, some of them don't.
Huh. Okay. Well, are there any lessons that you've been able to draw from this hobby of yours that are applicable over to the financial planning world, or is it something that's well, yeah, just leave it at that. What sort of lessons have you been able to draw that transfer?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's nice, as a financial planner, obviously, most of us do it because it's a real mission. It feels like, you're really doing something cool for people. But at the same time, you're not really creating anything. So I think that this checks the block for me where, in my work, not necessarily making anything per se, but this way I get to work with my hands and have a finished product that you can see and touch and feel. I think that most, fiduciary fee only planners, like us that work with clients not only on their investments, but also, their planning and so forth. It's a very complicated process. It has a whole slew of different pieces to it that you have to be skilled at. And I think my hobby, mirrors that. Those are some of the things that I've noticed in good, advisors that they have. They have the ability to understand and work on a whole multitude of areas, and that's what it takes to do these decoys. You have to have all these different steps, and they all have different skills that you have to master.
Yeah, the right tool for the right job. And when you were describing all the how the stars have to align so well for a hunt to be successful, it was making me think there's all these sorts of things you have to consider. But then if I guess in hunting, if one of the things is out of line, it doesn't work. But here in planning, we have the ability to adapt. Hopefully, if one thing goes wrong, we can adjust rather than say, oh, well, it didn't work.
Yeah. I just think that to do it right, when you're an advisor, it just takes a whole slew of different skills that you develop over time. And it's the same as this. Carving of the head is very different from cutting out the body, which is very different from the painting part. I would say the painting part is a completely different skill. Some of the greatest decoy carvers didn't paint their decoys, somebody else did.
Is there a pantheon of generations past the names that are revered, a Mount Rushmore of decoy carving?
Yeah, there's some of them. You know, let's see, I can't really think of any right now, but yeah, there are some different, carvers of the past that have done real well. I will do a shout out. This is my favorite book right here. This is a modern carver, Grayson Chesser. And this, if you ever wanted to do it, if somebody's like, yeah, I want to do that, find this book. It's out of print. It's called Making Decoys the Century Old Way. I reference it all for time. I have a number of books, but that's my favorite. And I carve in the Chesser way, probably, more than any other style.
You say it's modern, but that book looks every bit of 35 years old.
Yeah, it's pretty old. Yeah, it's yeah.
I guess that's the way of things.
1989. This is a second deal. I think it's probably, I figure it was an early 80s book. That's what I thought.
So 100 years ago, they carved the head and body separate. That was surprising to me when I heard that. I assumed if you carved a decoy, it was just, you start with a block and you chisel it down like marble, and so is that just for, it's because it's easier, or is there some physics, just some sort of physical reason why you would do it that way as opposed to just taking a chunk and start whittling away?
Well, it'd be very hard. I think that it is easier to carve the head separate, and that's the way all of them are done. Some sleepers like this is one of my sleepers, will be done where the head is carved like right with the body. But generally, no, it's two different pieces. And here, that's the cool part is, you want, this one's real. I did a real good job on this
Yeah,
one.
that
I
was
love
great.
this decoy. And you can't tell, right? That's what's cool. And you can't, it's also hollow, right? As I mentioned, not all the decoy carvers, hollowed out their decoys. Some of them would use maybe a lighter wood or something like that. But I hollow mine to make them lighter.
Yeah. Are there any special memories that you have of the hobby that you'll treasure the rest of your life, either from in the workshop or out in the wild, that you look back on especially fondly?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Generally, the hobby itself is just kind of like any hobby, you just kind of lives to yourself, and being able to just sit and do something and come up with something different and creative. I love that feeling. We call it, if you're an artist, you call it the flow, right? You get into the flow, and that's so addictive, to just be able to get in, and if you're carving or if you're painting or whatever it is, and you just flow, and next thing you know, 4 hours went by, and you ended up with something cooler than what you thought you could even do. That's an awesome feeling. That's happened a number of times. The opposite happens from time to time as well. And I would say, from a hunting standpoint, I've been on some hunts. They all kind of melded together at this point. But the quiet and the serenity of being out, on a marsh somewhere, as opposed to what our daily lives are like most of the time, and someplace like the Metroplex. That's a feeling that you just can capture, and being with friends and family in that environment and sharing something special, is really cool.
When you hunt, how far do you have to travel?
Oh, but sometimes a long way. These days, as I said, I'm older, try to make it easier. I have a lease that's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So generally I'm traveling hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3 or 4. So you're getting up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We generally go west of the Metroplex and go hunt out west.
Is there shelter there where you could go out the night before, or is it not that kind of property?
Not yet. Yeah, I had a lease that we had a little cabin on that we built. And that was cool because you could go up the night before. But you know, generally you're trying to fit in this addiction of duck hunting around, your other family activities. So, you know, you just wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and go hunt, come back, dead tired, get back at 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon and then, go to a soccer game, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about being in the flow state, sometimes for hours, and then working
Yeah.
with tools, is there ever a fatigue and then safety issue? Have you still got all 10 of your fingers, or is that not?
Yeah, well,
There they are.
yeah. The bandsaw is not overly dangerous. I have over here, you can't see it. I have a table saw, which does scare me. So yeah, working with the power tools, yeah, I would say you have to be careful. And, I don't know, with the hand tools, there is a fatigue that can, insert itself into the situation. And, if you get tired, you stop.
As you're thinking through like your next carve that you're going to do, are there things that kind of you lean into like certain challenges, like I want to improve this technique, or the last time I did this didn't turn out the way I really wanted, and I want to work on that aspect of it, or this certain breed, I guess, is that the right word, of duck, like, or is it just really demand driven? Like I need more mallards. My mallard is beat up too much. Yeah, so I need another one. Like how do you
No,
approach kind of your next builds?
no, it's the art drives the project, not the need. Like I said, I can go buy a decoy for
Yeah.
it, be fine. Yeah, it's more like right now I'm really into the widgeons, because they have so many colors to them. And it's a real challenge. I'm not completely satisfied with the painting on the widgeons that I did on the last 6. So on this 6, I'm trying to get the colors right, better, and, trying to improve. From here, yeah, I've never carved a pintail, so I'll probably carve a pintail pair. And so, I'm just thinking and developing along those lines. So yeah, I mean, the art drives it. What is it that I want to challenge? What is it? You're exactly right. What is it that I want to improve on and get better at?
Is it fall into that category of art where great art is never done, just abandoned, or are you constantly tinkering and tweaking?
No, I change and develop over time.
Like on a
And
specific duck, if you for whatever reason are not happy with that one, are you going to break out the brushes and keep messing with it, or is it done?
well, that's a good question. That's usually a judgment call, because you're right. Sometimes you get into the project and you screw up, and you got to go off in a corner and sit and think about it and decide what your next step is going to be. Usually in art, that's the thing. I have I call it the groaning chair. You just you go, oh man, I just screwed that up. And in art, any type of craftsmanship, the initial reaction that you want to do is to fix it right away. You're frustrated, and nothing. You're just going to screw it up worse. So you step away. You step away. Go sit down. Go do something else for a while. Think about it. And generally, I can come back and come up with a solution. These don't have to be perfect. There's one over here that has a big chunk out of it because none of this wood's perfect, and I filled it, and sometimes the head doesn't end up exactly the way I want it. So I'll fiddle around with it, change it up, put it on in a different perspective, because every one of them is going to be different somehow.
And you mentioned a while ago a pair and then a set of 6. Do you think of them as groups, or are they individuals, one at a time?
I'm generally carving groups these days. I don't take one from start to finish, but I have a half dozen of these right now, and they all have different head aspects. They all look very different. 3 of them are drakes, 3 of them are hens. And I'm taking that 6 all the way through my production stage at the same time.
You're doing a surge, scale, and efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk about superstitions. Do you have a lucky duck? Do you have a decoy that goes with you to every hunt for superstitious reasons, or is there, or what sort of superstitions, if any, do you have?
No, I don't think so. I don't have a lot of superstitions or anything that has to be right. Um, you have different things that you always take. It's not really a decoy for me. I was a naval officer before I got into this crazy business
Oh,
that we're
gosh, that's
in.
another interview. Jeez,
Water. I always have my
It's not a
bosun's
hobby.
my bosun's whistle with me, which is kind of unique. Because you whistle like widgeons we have here. They're whistling ducks. They don't quack. They whistle. And I always like to have my bosun's pipe with me. I think that's kind of cool. And you wear so your deep. Probably the biggest thing is everybody has their deep their calls on a lanyard, and they have the ones they want, and they have it where you want. That's probably the biggest thing that everybody. If I didn't have my lanyard with me, with my calls right exactly where they're supposed to be, with my bosun's pipe ready to call it some widgeons or whatever, I would be out of my element.
Okay. And the garment that you're currently wearing, what do you call that? Apron, smock.
Yeah, I wear an apron. It's thick, and it keeps me from getting in trouble with the wife. Getting paint and stuff on my clothes. Uh, it also, when you're carving a head or something and you slip, uh, you know, it, it'll absorb some of those things. There's always some band-aids because when you're carving a head, I will cut
It
myself.
happens.
There's
Yeah.
no question. But yeah, it just kind of protects me from, all that stuff.
I've got a dentist appointment this afternoon, so I got dental
Mhm.
stuff in the brain. I saw that and I thought, oh, he's going to get x-rays. That's not
Yeah,
what's
this
happening.
thing's free. One of my daughters gave this to me. I love it. It keeps me out of trouble.
Sure. You mentioned the book there as a great resource for somebody who is interested in learning more and getting into the hobby. What other words of wisdom or words of warning would you have to somebody or to yourself decades ago getting into this?
Well, yeah, I think if you wanted to get into it, the first thing is don't just go out and buy a $2,000 bandsaw. That came along like way later. Uh, and don't buy a whole bunch of tools. Get the Chesser book if you can find it or something like it. And then from there, the easiest way to get in is to go online. There are a number of places you can go, and you can get a kit, a decoy carving kit. It'll have the cutout, kind of ready to carve. That's the way to go. It'll have the eyes. It'll have everything you need.
Oh, sure.
You don't have to, you know, equip yourself with all that.
Start with a
To me,
tree, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you start carving on a head. If it goes well and you join yourself, you might have a new hobby. If not, move on.
What did you do before the bandsaw?
Well, I had a bandsaw, but it was much smaller,
Okay.
lighter weight, and didn't have as steep of a throat. And
Okay.
it was hard. It was a challenge.
So not a grand bandsaw, not the special one. Okay.
Yeah, not this. It has this throat to it, so I can carve geese on this and all much larger pieces of wood.
Whoa, geese. We
Yeah.
got a follow-up episode here. You do geese as well,
I had not carved a goose, but
with that tool you could if you
on my
wanted to.
list. Yeah, it's on my list.
Well, maybe when you turn 70, you can get yourself a bandsaw with which you can carve a turkey or an eagle or something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Eagle hunting's frowned upon, from what I understand.
throw. Yes.
Fine, a condor. All right. Well, if people wanted to find out, I'm guessing there's a YouTube community or other online community for people they're doing this as well. It's not just books and libraries.
The Michael Kitzes of duck carving.
Sure. I'm sure there is. There's online forums and so forth. I'm not a huge online guy. I'm not on Facebook currently or anything like that. But I get a lot of really good ideas from Instagram. I do like that because you can see what some of the other carvers are doing, and they'll put up pictures. That's where I go a lot of the time for inspiration is go see what the carvers are doing on Instagram.
Or a Pinterest dream board of.
Yeah, but you don't share your work in the same manner.
I haven't been recently. I really got tired of of all the social media stuff. So I kind of took a break, because I could sit on my couch and, thumb through Facebook or something, or I could come out here and paint and carve. And I'd rather paint and carve.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just go to our website, which is schultzwealth.com. You can put in the show notes. It's spelled weird. It's SCHULZ Wealth. You can go up on our website and engage with us if you wanted to, or you can email me at rob.schultz@schultzwealth.com, and happy to visit with you about hobbies or whatever it may be.
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm as a pinball guy. I view myself as an artist more than an electrical engineer or designer or
Yeah.
anything. Like it's art, and it scratches that itches that scratch or scratches that itch. So I totally I feel you. I'm picking up what you're throwing down here from the art piece. I think it's super valuable certainly for advisors. And as we said many times, like not a surprise kind of when you peel the onion back that we're all planners and we have kind of this creative outlet as a hobby. So yeah, thanks so much, Rob. This is really interesting. And this was outstanding. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Unexpected Hobbies of Financial Advisors is brought to you by Fiduciary CFO, forward-thinking tax and planning solutions for business owners, like RIA firms and their business owner clientele. The opinions of Brian, Joshua, and their guests are for entertainment purposes and should not be construed as legal, tax, financial, or investment advice. You should know better than to take any of this content seriously. Thanks for being a fan of the show. If you were listening and thought to yourself, hey, I know somebody they need to have on the show, you can do something about that. Go to unexpectedhobbies.com/nominate and tell us who they are and what they do that's so interesting and unexpected. If we agree, we'll send them an invitation and we'll hope they say yes. Now it's unexpectedhobbies.com/nominate.